Kia ora and welcome to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod once again. When we left you last time, we were waiting to see who the All Blacks coach would be this week. Well, we've known that for a few days now. We know that Ian Foster's there, Joe Schmidt's his assistant, and they're going to be there till the next World Cup. We know that the Irish people think that it's great. Other people think it's crazy and that Scott Robertson should be there, and who knows? I want to hear what you guys have to say, but we've got plenty to talk about this week. We've got the All Blacks versus Argentina, we've got South Africa versus Australia, an outstanding Black Ferns performance against Australia as well. Your blokes in the NPC, Harbour, trying to do what counties couldn't and bring back the Shield for the second time? Harbour's only won it once, right?
Yeah, second. 2006.
Yeah, plenty to talk about. Let's start. Bryn, thank you for coming along. Jipper, thank you for coming along. Let's start with Fozzie. I'm just getting straight to the point. Was the right call made?
I think they went, like, it was a pretty tough situation. Like, obviously, if there was going to be change, conversations probably had to happen before that result. The result happened, and obviously some strong support. And I think they've got to a place that they're comfortable and confident with and are prepared to stand by, which is great. Like, I think we're in a position where we're clear now. The grey's gone. I don't think it's necessarily what everyone was expecting. But it's really hard as well, like, because I've been asked a lot about it, and it's hard when you're not privy to the conversations to actually understand what process was done. Do you know what I mean? Like, it does make it hard to sort of give a fair reflection of it. But yeah, look, I think I'm really excited because I think Schmidt will bring a lot of innovation. That's what he did really well with Ireland, and when they obviously beat the All Blacks, that was part of the success and that was part of the story. And, you know, he'll bring a bit of spark and a bit of energy back into the players with, you know, potentially some different systems, either in phase pay, or what he did really well for Ireland was strikes off set piece, whether it be line out or scrum. So from a fan's perspective, I'm really excited about that shift and where that can go. And I think we have seen a lot of change with Jace Ryan being in there. Obviously, there won't be any more leg lifts at Maul time. Everyone seems to have copied at EPC level as well. Yeah, look, I think it's a settled team, and they can springboard from here, and they're in control of their own destiny now.
Do you think the right call was made?
I think Scott brought up a pretty good point last week, and you know, if you didn't have the buy-in from the players, then I think it probably would have been a different result with Fozzie not being the coach. But I think it just shows there that you know, probably the senior leaders and most of that group would have had a say in thinking, you know, do you think Fozzie's the right man for the job? And so, you know, you saw on media them coming out by themselves saying that this is our coach and this is what we need. So I think there shows, you know, it's the right man for the job. Whether people think in New Zealand or media think it's the right decision, I think it was shown throughout that week, especially in Ellis Park that week, what the players want and what they thought of Fozzie. So look, if you're Razor, you got to be gutted, man. You know, if I'm him, you'd have to think England would be the next opportunity for him, because I don't think he'll stay around too much longer. I think, you know, for him, he's talked about a lot that he's got ambitions to coach the All Blacks, but he also has ambitions now to coach another team. And so you'd have to think, you know, he'd be the favourite for England. If I was England, I'm calling his phone straight after that 2023 World Cup, or even before that, and letting him coach with the English team and see what he can do with that country.
Equally, not just the fact he missed out on it, but that the process was a bit dodgy, I think, in both cases. I mean, when you talk about the result, you know, from a World Cup being important to what happens afterwards, well, it wasn't at the last World Cup. They bombed out and he still got the job. So, you know, you'd be wondering about that process and just how transparent that is. And then when you look at the week-by-week process that we've been going through and how disruptive and horrible that's been for the current coach and probably him as well to understand what the future's like, is he really going to be throwing his name in the hat for a third time to see if they're going to, you know, do it again?
I think if it's his dream job, yeah, he probably will, because he'll want it. And you know, he probably wanted the Crusaders job before he got that as well. Do you know what I mean? He does seem like that sort of person that loves to turn things around and show that, you know, his skill set that way. He does his talking with his results, and I think he would relish the opportunity. Personally, that's from me, the outside looking in. I don't know him as well as Bryn does.
Do you think he feels valued right now?
I hope so. I hope so, because he's so good. Like, his record, like, we can't talk about it enough. You know, I hope he does, because he is a big part of the All Black future.
Yeah, it's hard to get your head around it. Like, when I think about that, obviously the fans value him to a great degree. But
Well, they value winning.
Well, yeah, they do. But they also value everything else he brings to the table as a character. But when you look at what the fans brought in this whole debate, and it's pretty obvious that fans' opinion isn't necessarily all that important. But they do buy the tickets, and they do watch it on television.
I think that's a stretch, because without the fans' pressure, like that's what we've said, that's our gold nugget, that pressure of expectation from our fan base, our communities, is huge, and extremely respected and honoured in the All Black environment. And make no bones about that. When they pull on that jersey, they are representing this country and the weight of expectation that comes with it. And I don't think there's potentially these reviews or looking at how they can get better without that expectation. So I think if they are considered, that's how it comes about, because they're not happy with the performances or the results. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, they're not obviously gone to a fan poll, but they definitely are a big part of the reason why change happens.
He's got a growth mindset, and he's got ambitions to be able to be, one of the best coaches ever to coach. So, how can he do that? He can win a World Cup with England. He can win one with the All Blacks, or whatever it may be. So, I don't think he'll sit still. He won't sit still. So, just knowing Razor and how ambitious he is in his coaching team.
If we use Bryn as an example, like this is not a piss take, but you've got Razor's back because that's how you feel about Razor. Do you know what I mean? Like you're in that. He's in the changing room. He's got Razor has got him to walk over broken glass for him, and that is what you want in your coach and your playing group. It's no different to me if Tom Coventry was up for it. Like, I'd be screaming from the rooftops, get the bloke in there, outstanding, and it's a pretty strong reflection of the way they feel about Fozzie as the head coach. Now that Joe Schmidt's in there as an attack coach and obviously a selector, the perception of the way he sees things, it may be different. So that may bring about change that we weren't expecting.
Do you expect much difference from him in that way?
I'm not too sure, because he'll have a style or improvements he wants to make on attack, but you're not going to be able to just rip it all down and start again from scratch. So they'll be slowly introduced, and I think it may not be too much phase play, Bryn. I think it may be initially we'll see a lot of, variation off set piece strikes and the way that we look to bend defences in that first, second and third phase, and then find our way into our shape there, and potentially kick strat in terms of how they want to, like if we use the Blues for example, he was obviously involved in that setup, and they kick off 10 a hell of a lot for contestables to the wingers. I know I harp on and really enjoy that.
We just bring in James Parsons as well.
But I'm just stealing all their ideas. But yeah, stuff like that. Like you'd have to think you'll see some change, and I think that'll start up in those areas first, and then potentially the phase play stuff will come over time.
I think it'll take time. We might see little things here and there. I think you're right, Jip, around first phase and your first phase of scrum and lineouts. That's something you can do pretty easily as a coach new coming in. But then we might see a little bit more detail when I might see Islander. They kind of have a 4-5 phase map play where it takes 4 phases, 5 phases. It's mapped to 4 to 5 phases. So look, that we might see that coming with the All Blacks, where it might be all in sync and thinking, man, for 5-6 phases, looks like everybody's on the same page. And because traditionally, as a professional rugby player, it's usually 2-3 phases where it's mapped, and then you start going into your phase play shape around what that looks like, what you see in front of you. So we might see a change in that area, because just talking to a couple of guys that have been in the Irish squad before, that's what they tend to do. That's how their game plan was set up. So it'd be interesting to see how they go. But I guess the improvements that I've liked from that South African Test match is they were able to get to the edge through kicking and being able to animate and being able to get the players in the right spot. So for me personally, I'd like to see that moving forward, and hopefully the All Blacks can continue to keep seeing those spaces and bend teams with run, pass or kick.
I think as well, like the biggest success, the way they found space is the forwards set a hell of a platform. Really direct carries, fast cleans, whether Aaron was there or not, the next player was ball up. And, as Scholz said, they're just backtracking. They couldn't bring line speed because they're constantly going back, and they can't have that time to connect, generate that line speed. So, it does sound a little bit basic, but that is the first and foremost, and I think that they'll probably stick with that methodology early in the test match for it to open up later in the game.
With the way that the Argentinians defend in comparison to the way that the Springboks defend, will that game plan work in the same way?
Yeah, I think so. Like, you just got to control what we can control. Like, we didn't really, we made the decisions based off the actions we produce. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't really about South Africa, and it shouldn't be about Argentina. You'll be aware of their threats and the styles, but you can actually manipulate the D through the actions you take on attack, if that makes sense. So, and I think they did that really well. It was very simplified, it was very clear, and it got the results. So often you hear, like, rugby's not a complicated game, it's just we make it complicated at times through trying to be innovative and push the boundaries, but sometimes just going back to the core basics. And that's what I don't think Joe Smith's the sort of coach, and he wouldn't have got to where he's got to by trying to throw a hell of a lot in. You know, you heard when Jace Ryan came in, like, he stripped everything back and probably had less. And I think he'll be of the same approach, except for that strike attack.
Because, Bryn, I wonder about with Argentina, I think we've seen the All Blacks fall into a hole with this before. They often try to play too much against Argentina. You know, but when you're up against the game against South Africa, when your coach's job on the line and you guys are copying so much and you have to get this win for the sake of everyone, you will stay very, very disciplined. So they've got to make sure they're able to stick within that format, don't they? Because when there's not as much on the line, it's easier to go, okay, shit, let's just shift it.
Yeah, I think so. But I think, possibly the weather will dictate that as well, Ross. I think, playing in South Africa, the 2 test matches, it was dry footy, and so the All Blacks could probably afford to play a little bit more, especially in their exit zone, back in their skill set with not a wet ball. But, being in Christchurch and knowing that, the kicking game and probably playing without the ball and defensive pressure that they're going to be able to put the Argentinians is going to be pretty important, because knowing that, yes, they'll be able to try and run the ball and they'll get opportunities in that, but knowing in those conditions, sometimes playing without the ball in the first 20 minutes take away the passion of what the Argentinians are going to bring and put their skill set under pressure, and then being able to open up the game after that 20 minutes. They might see that playing without the ball might be really important, but I guess also for the Argentinians as well, they're going to pose a lot different on the attack side of the ball. And I know that I've just talked about the conditions, but the way they played against Australia in that last test match, Aotearoa and all the outside backs and their willingness to be able to rove in and around and their face play shape because of how quick that ball was in that game. I can only imagine the Argentinian coach, Czech, will be thinking the breakdown, and I know we keep harping on about it, but at test match footy, it's so important, the breakdown and winning the collisions consistently. And, the time that they did beat us, not too long ago, was because they were winning that breakdown both on attack and then defensively. Guys like Pablo Matera getting over the ball, slowing down the ball, getting breakdown penalties, and being able to stunt the All Blacks momentum. So I do think the weather will play a bit of a difference around how the All Blacks will play, and you'd like to think that they can probably starve Argentinians of their position and let them make mistakes in their half, and they've been able to go and attack from there.
Another New Zealand team that has gone very well in its development over the last few weeks is the Black Ferns. We saw a big win, 52-5 over Australia. Now, we know that they've never lost to Australia before, but we did see them come close 23-10 earlier in the year, and it was not a dominant performance that day.
Mate, like, the breakdown, we'll use that, like the speed of the ball. Kendra Coxhead's got time to start running. Ruahei Demont's ability, like, I compare the way Kendra and Ruahei played. If you use Ruahei's first try that ran off Kendra coming around, you know how I spoke about DuPont and Intimate? Like, they sort of like operate like Cody Walker and Damien Cook, and they're just off the, a bit of NRL, but they're just off the cuff. They punch those holes in and around, and that just looked like a dummy half. Like, to me, that was Cook to Walker.
Yeah.
That when Kendra ran like a dummy half, just bomb. A first 5 reacting, not looking to set up anyone else, just reacting. And that speed of the game, I thought Ruahei and Kendra were massive, but she's good, man. Like, the way she reads a game and her ability to stay in system, but know when there's an opportunity, and just, and she scored another one with the same reaction of speed. It's like that change of pace, Bryn, like, It's there, she sees it, and it's like, whoa, and then she pops up and scores. It was impressive. Really impressed with the work off the ball of all the players, especially defensively, massive. I thought, another player that looks at home in 15s is Ruby Tui, big defensively, but watching her work off the ball to create opportunities for others in attack, sort of like Corden Betty does for the Wallabies, like really effective and efficient. And because she's such a threat, it takes attention away, which creates that time and space. I really enjoyed the game. It was free-flowing, up-tempo, and you can see the improvements they've made from end-of-year tour to even the Pac 4 to where they are now. That set piece, even their scrum, the work Chrono's done. All the core facets of the game were just better. Their skill execution, the basics were just so crisp, and they look so clear, all on the same page. They know when to pull trigger, they know their role.
Yeah, they're working.
I think
it's exciting. It's exciting, seriously exciting.
I think the tight fives improvements with ball on hand, being able to stay square, and a lot of the times the girls were able to go through the tip lines because they were all animated and making the right decisions. So you can see that Wayne Smith and his ability to be able to upskill these girls very, very quickly with the previous two test matches against also the Americans and Canadians playing, and then you've also had this one that we had on the weekend. It was really, really exciting. I think one thing that they really struggled with in that Northern Hemisphere tour was their set piece. Look at that first 50 minutes, the first 45 minutes, they had 10 lineouts and they were rocking at 90%, whereas you can't say that in the Northern Hemisphere tour they were losing lineouts and probably at that kind of 50, 60% mode. So really exciting times for those girls, and look, if they can continue to keep evolving, and I know it's hard to say if they were to play an English or French team, would they be as competitive and would they win that test match? I'm not too sure just yet, but look, they're making a lot of improvement. Very similar to the All Blacks. We've wanted to see the improvements in the Black Ferns, and look, we're seeing that with the ability of their play in their attacking phase, asking the right questions with their skill set around their tip plays, and then I think also their set piece as well, especially their line-out has improved a lot from their Northern Hemisphere tour.
The other point is their kick strategy. Like if you look at the Northern Hemisphere tour, like it was sort of like they would kick, then they'd chase. It wasn't a plan, but you could see there was a clear plan, because when there was a kick, you try to see how many black jerseys are in the frame. Man, they just swarm that field. Even with line breaks, that they're just so clear on what they're trying to achieve and how they're trying to manipulate the opposition. And you talk about the French and the English, mate, they're giving themselves every opportunity to win those test matches. Like we know that it's going to be the driving mauls and the scrum that will need to hold up on the day. But in terms of making the right decisions, manipulating defence and phase play, reactions, urgency, the work off the ball, the urgency is just, man, it's streets from where it was. It's really, really slick.
That Wayne Smith was pretty happy.
Yeah,
not 100%.
But the professor's never going to give you a 10 out of 10 report card.
No.
And he won't be happy. He won't want tries left out there. That's the ruthless nature.
How big are they going to go this week?
I think you've got to be careful that they don't fixate on that. Like they've got to go, okay, we want a 85% strike rate of opportunities to score this week, or some other measure that's not outcome. Because I just, like when you go into games, it's just the wrong mindset to go, we're going to win by 60 or 70, because normally you'll just win by 3.
Yeah.
Because you're just not, that edge isn't there. But as a punter, you'd have to think, based on Wayne Smith's comments, he's expecting
another 30 points.
He's expecting at least another 10 or 15. So, but the Wallaroos will be better. They will be better, because that was a completely different performance to what they experienced. So they've now got that to analyse. So it may tighten up a little bit, to be honest.
I think we'll just see a continuation of, especially more so their attacking, their kicking, attacking style. They'll keep getting better, and then hopefully it's dry ball over in Aussie as well, and they'll be able to score a lot more points. And so, I think, and I can't imagine, I know, knowing Wayne, there's no way they'll be outcome focused around how many points we need to score. It's be able to nail your role in that moment at whatever specific time that is in the game. Defensively, attacking, scrummaging, line out, whatever it may be, you just nail your role and you keep winning your moments, moment after moment after moment, and the score will take care of itself through that kind of mindset.
Let's have some predictions there. Let's start with the Shield game. Where do you see that one going?
I think Harbour can do it.
Completely put your heart away.
Mate, you just got to
Only
look at
if-
their performances. Like they'll need to match up front. Like, and with a guy like Retallick, he could be the difference. Like, no joke, he definitely could be. If he can disrupt the line-out ball, and potentially, around those breakdowns and sort that out, and you don't get the guys like Tavita Lee, Bryn Gatlin involved, Mark Talia, Sean Stevenson. If they don't get the ball and they're on the back foot, they're not going to be effective anyway. So that'll be the challenge. It's a young pack. There's not a hell of a lot of experience there.
The Harbour pack's just been, going along quietly and getting the job done and playing really well, but it's going to be a big test up against these Hawke's Bay boys who, have defended the Shield a lot of times against a lot of different teams. And so they're experiencing around there, knowing what they need to get those, and how to get up for those occasions, not just emotionally, but understanding what it looks like and being able to perform under pressure. But I'm gonna go for Harbour.
I wasn't expecting any different answer from that.
Yeah.
Well, we know what the outcome's going to be in the Shield game. We know what the outcome's going to be in the Black Ferns game. Do we know what the outcome is going to be when the Springboks take on the Wallabies this weekend?
Springboks.
Close.
I just think there's so many injuries, and just depending on how the team's selected, all the question marks we've got when we're talking about the Wallabies, we're not quite sure, but we're very clear when you talk about the Springboks. Yes, there's a blueprint there. If you can disrupt and not let them kick on their terms and you match them at set piece, you're a chance. But you still got to take those chances.
Yeah.
So, you just have to think Springboks.
You'd have to think Springboks, and I think they will. But for whatever reason, they aren't always great travellers in Australia. So with all the analysis that we've talked about, with what I've seen, you'd have to think. I think they're probably 10, 15 points better than the Australians. That's what I reckon.
Okay, and lastly, the All Blacks versus Argentina in Christchurch.
All Blacks.
By
10 to 15.
Yeah. And how does it play out for you, Bryn?
No, copy and paste. I had about that kind of 10 to 12 mark. So, it's going to be a good test match. I think if the Argentinians can, win the breakdown and get the kind of pitches that they had against the Wallabies, it's going to be a really, a tough encounter. And I just think it'll be a few moments here or there where I think we'll get better.
Do you reckon because I'm thinking it from a New Zealand aspect, having the Crusaders with the tests in Christchurch, with the blueprint, they know what works in that 7 o'clock dewy condition this time of year. Do you think Matera brings a bit of a helping hand in terms of Argentina's prep, knowing exactly how those certain players think and how they'd like to play and how they want to manipulate?
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't even
definitely
thought about it till just then.
I definitely think so. I think his experiences of, because again, a lot of those senior All Blacks, you especially look at the forward pack, the likes of, your Scott Barretts and your Sammy Wylock, who have big influences in that group. He'll be able to give them a pretty big mindset around like what they're coming into and knowing what that week will look like for those big players and what their preparation looks like, and I guess the mindset that they have on an everyday basis. So, I think he'll be loving the challenge. I know Pablo, he'll be wording it in a way that in that Argentinian fire and spirit that will be getting those boys' juices going.
I reckon it's key
good.
they don't get the juices going too much, because what's worked for them is the discipline has been better. So it is a fine line of going too far.
And saying that, death, taxes and slow starts from the All Blacks, a bit of passion up the front doesn't hurt you too much.
No, that's true. Maybe it is just 10 points. Maybe it's a bit tighter. I hadn't considered the Pablo factor.
And if they were to win, people are going to be saying, was he a mole? Was that a plant?
Yeah. That was their long game.
It was a masterstroke from the Argentine rugby community. Yeah, okay. With that being said, I think we're probably not going to see that happen. So
no.
Well,
you never know.
You never know. It's happened before in Australia.
I've made many a prediction this year that has gone the other way, to say the least.
But it's been a couple of years of firsts.
Oh,
you never know.
Oh.
Okay, thank you very much, Bryn. Good to see you again.
See you, Bryn.
Cheers, Chipper. I hope we see you next week with the Ranfurly Shield and after another consistent performance from the All Blacks. seeing it all over again.
Beautiful. Look forward to it.
Geez, you're going to be tough to take with the shield in here.
They might not give it to me. They might be like, you're a has-been, mate.
Yeah.
Move on.
The flag has been flying behind you.
Yeah, true. And the Blues jersey, look at that.
What other TV show features a
The commercial team will be happy with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the commercial teams.
Hey, well, thank you very much
Cheers,
as
mate.
well. We'll see you all next week for another Aotearoa Rugby Pod. Mā te wā.